CTV News with Kelly Gregg.
Good evening. First, there were U.S. tariffs. Now, Canadian counter tariffs. Ottawa has released a list of 700 American products, from live fish to household appliances and golf clubs, that will face new levies. In all, the federal government says it represents $27 billion worth of goods. The measures were announced today, but will only come into effect on September 8th. At the same time, Ottawa is also encouraging shoppers to buy Canadian.
This morning, I had the chance to talk with many associations of retailers to really have them on board to make sure that at your grocers, at your local shop, that you understand what are the Canadian products. And I have their support to make sure that's the case. And we will push them to make sure that that's the case.
One of those local shops here in Montreal is bracing for what the latest tariff news will mean for business. Sweeta Rassi has that story.
Atelier Bay is proudly local, and its clothes are made close to home.
We cut, we sew.
But its business depends on customers beyond Montreal, including the U.S., and those sales are now taking a hit.
Online sales has been really difficult in the States because of tariffs.
Anne-Marie Laflamme says her business is losing about 10% of its sales revenue because of tariffs. And as a trade war between Canada and the U.S. intensifies, so does the uncertainty.
Our margins are way too thin to support that kind of tariff.
On Tuesday, the federal government announced new support for businesses, including additional loan opportunities. Over the weekend, Quebec Premier Christine Fréchette also unveiled financial assistance, including loans. But for businesses already carrying debt, taking on more may not be the solution.
If you've been through the last rough patch of the last several years with the pandemic, supply chain disruptions, high inflation, and now a trade war, your capacity to take on more debt is quite limited.
According to a survey conducted last year by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, many companies were not even eligible for some economic relief programs. And in total, just 1% of its members used them. Laflamme is hoping this trade war will encourage shoppers to buy local, and that's what some are already doing.
Absolutely, and the stores are making it a little bit easier now.
Like I go out of my way to see if I can choose like local brands or Canadian brands over anything else.
For others, the shift toward buying local could last beyond the trade war.
I think so. The local versus like punitive against the states, not, but local definitely. I think it's important to encourage what's coming from Quebec and from Canada.
But with tariffs eating into already thin margins, Laflamme is keeping a close eye on what comes next. Sweeta Rassi, CTV News.
Montreal police say a fourth officer has been suspended following allegations of racist behavior in Montreal North. Initially, 2 officers from Station 39 were pulled off the job. Another 3 were put on desk duty and 14 others reassigned to other stations. A third officer was suspended in June, and police say the fourth officer was put on suspension last week. They're suspected of committing repeated acts of discrimination, including cutting off dreadlocks and keeping them as trophies. Legendary country singer Dolly Parton has died.
Well, out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition and yawn and stretch and try to come to life.
Just days ago, Parton shared an update on her health, telling People magazine she'd been dealing with issues since the death of her husband in March of last year. She is the best-selling female country music artist of all time, having written more than 3,000 songs, including 9 to 5, Jolene, and I Will Always Love You. Born in Tennessee in 1946, Parton began playing guitar at the age of 6 and singing in church. She had multiple #1 hits. She was 80 years old. In other news, the number of wildfires burning in British Columbia has jumped again. Rain helped lower the risk in some areas, but the fire service says that will be short-lived as hot and dry conditions return this week. Canadian consumer debt reached a record $2.64 trillion in the second quarter of 2026. TransUnion reported most consumers are keeping up with their debt payments, but a greater number are seeking help. And a Nova Scotia family is thanking fire and rescue teams for saving their dog. The golden retriever fell 20 meters off a cliff at a provincial park earlier this month, triggering a complicated operation to fetch the dog. We'll have more national news on CTV News at 5:30.
Weather brought to you by Gratian Scaff. Second pair is a gift event including designer frames. A second pair free for a limited time.
Lauren, it's not exactly a sweltering end to the summer.
No, and the day has once again been a little bit all over the place. We started with rain. Right now it's sunny outside, but we are still holding on to a 40% chance of showers until 8 o'clock. So it's sort of a repeat of yesterday. No thunderstorm warnings or watches at this time, so that's the good news there. And when I look at my futurecast, I could tell you that it doesn't look likely that we would see some rain, but we'll get to that in one moment. Right now we're sitting at 24 degrees. Looks like that is today's daytime high, right where we should be this time of the year, so a seasonal high. Now, our 7 to 7 night planner does show that we're seeing a mix of sun and clouds clearing into the early morning hours. Now, this is where I mentioned the futurecast, because if we do see any rain, it will be less than a drizzle, very little accumulation, and it would be around 7 o'clock. But once again, it was so spotty and minor that it doesn't look likely. However, when there's a 40% chance and Environment Canada says that, we pass on the message to our lovely viewers. Now, tomorrow, I think you're going to like this forecast because overall, it looks pretty nice. We're calling for a mix of sun and clouds, and our daytime high should be fairly comfortable. We're looking at 26 degrees, feeling like 30, so not super humid, which is nice. Come Thursday, though, the rain returns, a risk of a thunderstorm. We could see around 10 millimeters of rain. This high of 26 will feel like 33, but we redeem ourselves Friday, ending on a high note with a mix of sun and clouds. 21 degrees, but here the Humidex will make it feel like 26.
After the break, with the days before the election call, the latest on the investigation into the Quebec Liberal leadership. And a federal team dispatched to look into the death of a worker on the tarmac at Trudeau Airport. Anti-corruption squad has wrapped up its investigation into Pablo Rodriguez's leadership campaign. It centers on allegations of questionable fundraising during the Quebec Liberal Party leadership race. According to La Presse and confirmed by Nouveau et Faux, the investigation found that Rodriguez did nothing illegal. For the first time since he resigned, Rodriguez spoke out today. He sat down with Nouveau chief anchor Marie-Christine Bergeron.
Définitivement des gens qui voulaient mourir. Je vous dirais que ça a marché par ailleurs.
Est-ce que votre nom aujourd'hui est lavé de tout soupçon?
Mais je vous dirais que j'ai jamais rien fait.
Rodriguez saying there people wanted to harm him and it worked, maintaining he never did anything wrong. He adds his professional life was ruined by the allegations. The full interview is now available on Crave. And meantime, Liberal leader Charles Milliard says he's still waiting for the final report. But from what he's seen so far, the party as a whole isn't implicated in any wrongdoing.
Read the article like all of us this morning, so I'm still waiting for the official conclusions of all those inquiries. But if what was mentioned is accurate, I think there's a collective, reflection on what has happened in the past year, and I'm happy to read that neither myself or the Parti libéral du Québec is involved in any way.
And Parti québécois leader Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon said he's waiting for UPAC to officially wrap up its investigation, but added it still appears that people making donations were reimbursed.
So let them do their work and let them express what they have found or not found. In any case, what we know for sure is that there was events of political financing during which people contributed a certain amount and got reimbursed right away in cash. And there's no chance that behavior is normal nor legal.
All right, let's bring in political analyst Raphael Melançon. So Raphael, first off, what's your reaction to what Pablo said, that there were people who wanted to harm him and it destroyed his professional life?
Well, Kelly, I think we got to be very careful, first of all, because these information that were published this morning by La Presse also come from confidential, undisclosed sources. So, as we have heard from those clips, of course, it's important. It's going to be important, especially in the electoral context, for UPAC to give us all the details, because it's important for Quebecers to be able to make sound decisions based on facts and not just allegations coming from confidential sources. So it's interesting to hear, to read what La Presse was saying. It's information that was also confirmed by our colleagues at Nouveau Info. But at the same time, I think the facts remain, and Parti québécois leader Paul Saint-Pierre mentioned it. But let's not forget that the businessman, Montreal businessman Emmanuel Cabral, acknowledged that he gave $500 cash to people who were attending his fundraising event for the Rodriguez campaign at the time. It's also confirmed that Sona Lacayan-Olivier used National Assembly resources paid for by public funds to support the campaign of Rodriguez, and also that she attempted to conceal important information and to interfere with the ongoing investigation at the time from the authorities. So these are all aspects that will be eventually, I'm pretty sure, the subject of accusations. Of course, Rodriguez might not have been directly involved or even aware of that happening within his party, but still, to me, the facts remain that there were people who attempted to go against the rules and the laws in this province to support his campaign. And so, to me, it's still justified that he is no longer the leader of the Liberal Party. Let's not forget also, Kelly, that he won at the last ballot with a very narrow margin over Charles Milliard, so 52-48% of the points allocated. So to me, it's clear that his victory was not necessarily based on a campaign that was clean of any suspicion.
So to that end, you mentioned the electoral context. Where does that leave the Liberals now? Does this affect Charles Milliard's leadership?
Well, I believe the reputational damage, no matter the leader, whether it's Milliard, whether it's Rodriguez, the damage on the reputation of the party is done, and it's going to be very hard to turn things around at this point. I mean, it's just adding another layer of suspicion regarding the ethics and the integrity of that party, on top of what happened during the Charest years, the Bastarache Commission, the Charbonneau Commission, and the Brownie-Gates added another layer of suspicion. So in the minds of Quebecers, if you look just at the poll today, the latest Léger poll, the Liberals are now neck and neck with the CQ at 23% behind, fighting for the second place behind the PQ. And among Francophone voters particularly, they're only at 14%. So it shows to me that the Liberal brand is highly damaged, especially among Francophone voters in this province.
All right, we don't have a lot of time, but I did want to ask you about Donald Trump's post today about the failed trade talks, saying he would never interfere with French-speaking Canadians and accusing Mark Carney of being a liar. How do you think that will resonate here in Quebec?
Oh, well, I think the vast majority of Quebecers don't believe one single word of what's coming out of Donald Trump's mouth, to be honest. Let's be honest. There's no way that people will believe that. And he says he loves French-speaking Canadians. Well, if you want to show love, Mr. Trump, stop treating us the way you do and start treating us as friends and partners, as you should always have done. That's the way to show love to your neighbors.
All right, we'll have to leave it there, but Raphael, I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more for you with the election call expected this week. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Always a pleasure, Kelly. See you soon.
Still to come, the search for survivors after a rare storm rips through France. CTV News has confirmed that a prominent lawyer known for her work on the notorious Granby girl case is running for the Liberals. Valérie Assouline will be the party's candidate for the Saint Laurent riding, an area she knows well, having grown up in the neighborhood.
A person of action, and I felt there was a lot of moments where I felt like I couldn't go further than what I was doing. So that's why if the people of Saint Laurent give me their trust, I will make sure to make changes. And I will make sure that we speak about children in Quebec.
The official announcement is expected tomorrow. A member of the ground crew at Trudeau Airport has died after he was hit by an airplane on the tarmac. The death is now under investigation by the federal government and the Quebec coroner. Laurence Brisson-Dubreuil has the story.
Police say the 39-year-old was struck by an aircraft backing up on the tarmac. The union that represents thousands of airport workers has identified Oscar Roballo as the employee who was killed. Roballo was taken to hospital, where he later died from his injuries. The union says Roballo had been working at Trudeau Airport for about a year and a half.
No one ever had any issues with his workmanship or his professionalism. It's just a tragic accident that we lost a very good member.
He says that behind the terminal, airport workers face risks passengers rarely see.
There's a lot of elements. You're handling heavy equipment, big equipment. You're handling the weather, the night, the day.
The union says incidents like this are rare, but it's now working with Roballo's employer, SAMSIC, and the airport authority to establish exactly what happened. Aéroport de Montréal says it has put assistance and support measures for employees and passengers who witnessed this tragic accident. It is also cooperating with authorities investigating the death. CTV News has reached out to SAMSIC for comment, but has not heard back. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada is deploying a team to investigate, and the workplace death is also being investigated by a federal government agency. The aircraft involved was an Airbus A350 operated by French Bee. For the workers who remain on the tarmac, the focus now turns to answering critical questions. How did this happen? And what needs to change to make sure it doesn't happen again?
It's sad to say that it always takes an incident like this in order to put preventative measures, and that's us to secure and to enforce that in order for this never to happen to anyone working at any airport around the world.
Laurence Brisson-Dubreuil, CTV News.
Looking overseas, a tornado ripped through a village in the south of France, damaging 300 homes and injuring dozens of people. Rescue crews searched the village of Pomat near Toulouse. Some homes were completely destroyed and the roof collapsed in a 14th century church. 2 people in Pennsylvania have died from the measles. It's the first time someone has died from that disease in that state in 35 years. The U.S. is going through its worst measles outbreak since 1991, with more than 2,700 cases reported this year. Almost all of them are in children. And Ghislaine Maxwell has lost her bid to have her sex trafficking conviction overturned. A judge said the claim that Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend was suffering a miscarriage of justice was based on distortions and outright falsehoods. We'll have more international news on CTV News at 5:30. Coming up, how to lighten the load on students' backs during back to school. Back to school can be tough on students' backs. Proper fit and weight distribution for backpacks can help lighten the load as kids return to class. Christine Long has more.
4 friends excited about going back to school, but they're carrying a lot of baggage. Keena Burton's backpack is well over 10 pounds.
It's heavy in the bottom, but the top, I don't think there's any space in it.
Pediatric occupational therapist Sabrina Monsenego says a child's backpack should not be more than 10% of their body weight.
We don't want the child to be holding it with one strap, kind of slouching, and we don't want it to be sitting too low on the back either.
Kind of heavy, but like over here it bothers me here.
Monsenego says properly adjusted padded straps can help distribute the load of books and water bottles.
Backpack has a strap like this that kind of goes around the chest or the waist. The weight distribution will be a lot better that way too.
It can feel really heavy, especially on the first and last day of school, because you have a lot of stuff and you're bringing everything home.
Posture is important to avoid neck, shoulder, or upper back pain.
Backpacks with a lot of compartments so that you can easily place the books so that they're well aligned.
Sometimes when it's like a really hot day and I come back from school and like my school stuff is all in here, like it's kind of like it's like uncomfortable.
Pain or discomfort from improperly carried backpacks can lead to more challenges in the classroom.
Slouching at your desk, not being able to efficiently copy from the board, leaning their chin on their hand while they're writing.
A little planning can make back to school less of a pain in the neck. Christine Long, CTV News.
The PWHL's Walter Cup has been found. The trophy was supposed to head to Alberta last week as Montreal Victoire forward Dara Gregg was going to celebrate in her hometown of Lethbridge. Instead, nothing arrived except an empty case. After much searching, the missing trophy was finally found late yesterday and is now safely back with the team. All right, so that's good news, Lauren. Let's keep that good news rolling into the weather.
Well, I'm glad you said that because we actually have something positive to say. No rain to talk about tomorrow, so that's good news. I mean, there is a slight chance that we could see a few showers tonight, 40% to be exact, and that is until 8 o'clock. But when I looked at the futurecast very closely, it didn't look likely. However, I will pass on the information from Environment Canada that we do have that chance of showers. Then we'll see clear skies. 15 degrees is our overnight low, so a very comfortable sleeping night. These are the nights where I encourage people to open up the windows and get some fresh air in the house. We start the day off with a mix of sun and clouds, 17 degrees being our wake-up temperature. We will see the mercury climb to 26. It will feel like 30, but overall a mix of sun and clouds. So tomorrow is a nice day ahead of Thursday where we are expecting some thunderstorms. We could see up to 10 millimeters of rain and it will be on the humid side, a high of 26, feeling like 33. But then Friday through Saturday and most of Sunday, we're seeing clear skies and lots of sunshine.
Well, that is it for us. Mitsumi will be here at 6 o'clock with the latest on the American response to Canada's counter tariffs, eye-catching video of a smash and grab at Costco, and why people don't seem to care about climate change. And now here's Sandy Ronaldo with CTV National News.